Our next speaker is Dr. Katherine Hooper. Dr. Hooper is a visiting assistant professor in the psychology department. She completed her PhD in neuroscience and psychology at Indiana University. Dr. Hooper teaches sensory perception and psychobiology both on campus and online, and her topic is the use of online proctoring tools in distance learning.
Proctoring isn't exactly the most exciting or glamorous use of technology that we'll be seeing today, but I hope to convince you that it's a really necessary one. And the reason is that, just frankly, to be honest, online education has a really bad reputation. And that's true with faculty, with administrators, with employers, and even with students, as I hope to show you today. First, let me give you some data. This comes from a big survey of hundreds of college administrators. And the first piece of data I want to show you is just that enrollment in online courses is going up. So this isn't surprising. We know this. College education, college enrollment actually is kind of plateauing, but online enrollment is going way up in the past 10 years. And we all know that. This part of the survey is where they asked administrators how critical is online education to your particular university. And those who agree that it's critical for my university, you can see that that's gone up tremendously over the past decade. Also, it's really critical. Students are demanding online courses. They don't want to go to universities where there aren't online courses, and administrators feel like it's really critical that we're offering them. The problem is, however, that faculty are really wary of online education. And this graph shows, again, this is the administrators, and what they asked them was, how do your faculty value online education? Do they feel like it's valuable and legitimate? And you can see that at universities where they offer courses online or even full programs online, only 40% of the faculty felt like it was valuable and legitimate. And that number goes down as you look at other programs in universities where they only offer courses online. Only about 20% of the faculty were comfortable with it. And at universities where they don't have any online programs or any online courses at all, only 10% are comfortable with online education, feel like it's valuable. And of course, that 10%, those universities is either because the faculty refuse to put courses online or the other way around. I'm not sure which comes first. But anyway, it's got a bad reputation, as you can see. So this semester, I actually asked my students about this because I've been teaching online for a couple of years. I teach psychobiology and human sensory perception online. So I asked my students in my online courses and in my on-campus courses, how do you feel about online education? Do you feel like it has less value or do you feel like your degree will have less value if you get it from online courses? And this is what they said. I asked them lots of questions, but I just wanted to show you this one particularly. I'll show you a couple more later. I worry about the perception of online education. And the blue bars are the people who are in my on-campus class, and green bars are the students in my online class, and you can see that a lot of them are they're kind of worried about the perception. They feel like if their employers know that their degree came from taking a lot of online classes, that's going to look bad for them. So not only are administrators and faculty and employers worried about online education, but students are too. Then I asked them why, and anybody want to guess why? What?
Employment after they graduate.
Yeah, but why is it though that they're so that people are so wary of it? The people that has a bad reputation.
University fees.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, so the online programs like that, yeah, the people don't value. But even here at UNF,
You don't know if we take your exams, but you get very far.
yeah, and that turns out to be a big problem, and bigger than I realized. I mean, I always knew it was a problem, but it turned out to be bigger than I realized. So I asked students about that too. I asked them about their cheating practices on campus, online, and other students' cheating practices too, not just their own. And basically, this sort of sums it up. They say that cheating on exams is a lot more likely to happen in online courses than in on-campus courses. I was actually kind of surprised at this. I mean, I knew that cheating was a problem, but I had this perception that the people who were cheating were sort of the low-level students, that maybe they weren't even doing it very well, and they kind of weeded those students out. But no, my students were pretty frank about this. A lot of them are cheating, and even my good students were saying, you know, well, I cheat online because I feel like I don't have a connection with the professor. I feel like they expect me to be cheating because they put the exam online, so if they put the exam online, then, I mean, that's what they expect, right? They also said, because I don't have a connection, I don't feel like, I don't feel like it really matters if I cheat because I don't have a personal relationship with the professor. So they also gave me all the gory details, okay? And these probably aren't going to surprise you either, except I was just surprised by the extent of it. They say that, you know, the obvious kind of things like, well, they say, I know students who pay other students to take exams for them. I know students, I see students getting together on the second floor of the library, all huddled around, a class of students huddled around the library, taking their exams together, huddled around the computer, taking exams together. I see students opening other browser windows and just, you know, Googling the questions, or getting electronic copies of the textbook and then using the search function to search the textbook for the answer, or then just simply, you know, the obvious one, using the textbook as they take the exam, just looking for the textbook, looking for the answers. Another thing they said they do is have email exams going on. So I guess an email exam is you get a whole bunch of people in a group email, then you're emailing the questions to each other to take the exam, people are answering it, and they're doing this by text too. So again, it was really, really prevalent, and a lot of the students expressed, you know, that I wish we didn't have to cheat, but all the other students are cheating, and so I feel like that's not fair because they're all cheating, so why shouldn't I cheat if they're cheating? All right, so big problem, okay? I hope I convinced you of that. All right, so I've expressed this over the past few years to the people at CERT, the wonderful people at CERT, and this past spring, Deb suggested, well, why don't we try this new program I wrote about? It's called Remote Proctor. We can proctor the students online. And I said, oh, I've been waiting for that, okay? So, you know, we had these other ideas, like I said, well, could we just have students come in and take the exams in a computer lab, you know, where they were proctored in the computer lab? But we don't really have the resources for that. And then also, if you're asking online students to come in to take an exam, that's kind of hard to do, you know, part of being online is you don't actually have to come to campus. And some students don't actually live here and can't come. So anyway, so Deb set up Remote Proctor for me, and I agreed to pilot this over the spring. And this is how it works. I put my exam on Blackboard as usual, okay? So I just created totally the usual way. I just give it a password. Then I go to Remote Proctor. It's real easy to set up an account at Remote Proctor. And then I put in, okay, there's my name, there's the name of my exam. Here's the password for my exam, which I gave Blackboard. It's going to take about 60 minutes. It's going to be about 60 students, and I wanted to run from this exam was September 20th through September 23rd. And then we set up, Deb and I set up this sort of rules, okay, what the UNF rules would be. And I realized they were a little bit, we had rules like that, you know, you can't have anybody else in the room with you, which, gee, that totally makes sense. But there were instances, a lot of cases where, you know, somebody would walk through the room and then they would get flagged by these remote proctors. So I sort of eased up the rules a little bit and basically made it so that, you know, try to make your test environment just like you would on campus. But you know, if something happens, like your phone rings, you know, I can understand that. And so we try to be a little bit, I try to be a little bit easy on it, as long as it was clear that they weren't cheating. Because some students complained, I got kids, you know, what if the kid screams in the other room and I have to go call them or something like that. But anyway, so you basically put what you want your rules to be. And then what happens next is, when the student is ready to take the exam, actually before they're ready to take the exam, they go in and they get set up on Remote Proctor. They need a webcam and a microphone, and they need a decent speed of internet. And if they come here, I give them this link, they just press that Start System Check button, and it runs them through it. Ideally, everything is all set up so that it checks everything and goes, hey, you're set to go, everything's cool. And that did happen in most cases. But if there are some problems, like if you have conflicting programs on your computer or something like that, or your webcam's not working right or whatever, they help you troubleshoot. There's an automatic troubleshooting option, and then there's also a online chat, and then there's a tech support that they can call if they need help. Eventually, you know, preferably before the exam starts, they get this all set up. Then, when it's time to take the exam, what they do is they find a quiet place to take the exam. They go in to a remote proctor and they say, I'm ready to take my exam. They pick the right one, and it asks them to see their photo ID. Okay, so now we've solved the problem that was mentioned. Now we know who the student is who's taking the exam. Okay, that's a big problem to solve. We know that this is the correct student. Occasionally students will forget to put in their photo ID, but I have photo rosters, so I can actually check and make sure that it's them. So they do this part, and then what remote proctor does is it says, okay, now you go back to Blackboard and take the exam. So the camera's running at this point. They go back to Blackboard, and then they find the exam on Blackboard, and then they put in the password that remote proctor gets them. So they can't take the exam without the password, which is only given to them when they go through this system. All right, then what happens is remote proctor, this by the way is not live. Okay, somebody actually watches this later. This is all automated. So then they ask them to scan the room with their webcam. So they scan the room to make sure there's nobody else in the room, make sure they don't have cheat sheets on the walls. They scan their desktop too, so that they can see they're not using any books, their phones are put away, etc. And then they take the exam, and it's recorded the whole time. Okay, again, not by a live person, it's just a recording. Then, what it does is later on, somebody goes back, a proctor goes back and watches the videotape, I think they watch it at a fast speed, and they flag anything that the student does wrong. So in this case, this student, who by the way gave me permission to use this, it flagged her there for looking away from the monitor, and then those little red buttons that you see up there, all I have to do is click on those to go straight to the part of the videotape where she's doing that behavior. And I look and I can see, oh, well, you know what, she's answering questions about her eye, and she's looking off because she's reminding herself about the parts of her eye. So I know what she's doing, and they know, they probably realize she's not cheating either, because one of their options is instead of a rules violation, they could call it suspicious activity. And so they'll let me know there's something suspicious about this one, and I can go check it. All right. The other thing it does, okay, so now we've established that it's the right person taking the exam. She's taking the exam without help because we're watching her take the exam. The next thing it does is it looks at her computer screen. So if she opens any other browser windows, it will know. So basically, I think what it does is it takes a picture every 5 seconds, and then somebody runs through this real fast to make sure she doesn't open up anything else. And it's all clear. They tell me that it's clear, no violations there, and that's that. So now we know that she did the exam without any help from Google. All right, so we piloted this program, and when we did this in the spring, it was after the class had started. I felt like I couldn't really make it mandatory because I hadn't warned students that they needed a webcam and microphone. I hadn't told them they were going to be proctored. I felt like I can't make them do it. So I asked for volunteers. So I had 35 students in that section. Who wants to be proctored for their exam? And I'll give you all these perks. First of all, instead of the 50-minute window, or the 50-minute time limit, you can have 60 minutes. And you can take it any time over the whole weekend instead of my 3-hour window on Friday afternoons. I'll also give you extra points, extra credit points for doing it this way, and you get longer to take the exam. Okay, so out of 35 students, only 5 wanted to be proctored, even though most of them said that they had webcams, because I surveyed them on that. Only 5. Out of the 5 that agreed to be proctored, these are 2 of them. This one up here, she wasn't cheating, but you can tell it's not a very good test-taking environment. Her boyfriend is snuggling with her the whole time, and she's going, stop, stop. I don't think she got it. This other student here asked her phone the questions during the whole exam, so I don't think she understood she was being recorded either. I wrote her up, and she dropped the class the next day. I don't know what happened after that. But, okay, so these were 2 of the 5 who wanted to be proctored. So it kind of tells you, maybe I better make this mandatory. So I did. I made it mandatory for my classes this semester here. And the student, and I put that in the course description. Okay, you need to have a webcam, you need to have a microphone, you're going to be proctored during the exams. Be prepared. And here's the exam. I just gave it a couple of weeks ago. I buzzed out their names there, but you can see that most of them are clean. I didn't have any cheaters and no suspicious activity. There were some rules violations, but almost all of those were students forgetting to put in their ID for me to see, but I could check with my photo roster to make sure that it was them. So I feel like that exam had integrity. I know that the students didn't cheat, okay? I watched them, somebody else watched them. I feel like it has integrity. I asked my students how they felt about it. I asked the online students and the on-campus students. They all agree that proctoring would increase the integrity of courses. The students who took the exam this way, some of them, most of them said it was easy. Once they got it set up, it was really easy to do. A lot of them said it was creepy to feel like somebody was watching them. So that was the thing I heard over and over. It's creepy. We also did make them pay $10 per exam. It was subsidized by CERT, so they only had to pay $10. I don't know how much it actually cost. They didn't like that either, so I would recommend that this be put in the technology fee in the future. But these are some of the comments that I got from them. They were, in general, pretty excited that somebody was taking a step to sort of elevate the integrity of online education. Okay, any questions?
So how much does it cost? How much
It cost, I don't know. How much did it cost?
So in the pilot period, it was we got a number of seats for $15, and the regular price is $20. So we're subsidizing it by half for distance learning courses. Jonah's got the mic if you have other questions.
I was just wondering if you noticed any improvement in grades or
I
not
actually,
improvement in grades?
the grades were the same. They were the same, which tells me that I'm assuming that, because I did analyze that, because I like data. So I did test that, and they were the same, which tells me that I have a feeling that they studied to get them the same. And many students did report, yeah, I felt like I had to study more for this because I knew that I couldn't use my book, even though I always say you can't use your book.
The question is more about when you were talking about students' perception of cheating. Were they perceiving that students are more likely to cheat, or were they admitting that students that they themselves were cheating?
Both. Many of them said, I admit I cheated. I admit that I cheated during my online classes, yes. And then many of them reported what other students do and what they do too, both.
I noticed that there was it seems to be more of a time-consuming component for you to actually proctor these. Did you find that you spent significantly more time proctoring tests this semester?
Well, I don't have to look at any of these things except the ones except the ones that have rules violations. And probably I could even get away with not even looking at those, because if they were suspicious, they would flag them as suspicious. So it took me a little bit of time, but I feel so much better about my class that I don't mind spending that time.
Would you say it raised the students' participation in the other areas of the course to better prepare for the exams other than proctor?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would say that I have really good participation. I have some major participation. You know, we had forum discussions. The students had to do research and things. So there are a lot of other components. And I would say that they have done a really good job with that, but I didn't really tie that to the exam. I think I really tied that as more of me doing a better job of getting my expectations across. So I'm not sure, but that's possible.
I'm wondering, I also have online exams, but I let them use the gamut. Like, there is no cheating because you can use your book, you can use it in that. So I'm wondering, do you use this tool because what you're testing, you can't do it in an alternative format where cheating is
Yeah,
possible?
I think it totally depends on the type of class. In this particular class, there's a lot of, anatomy and physiology and stuff that we're really just asking them to learn and testing their knowledge. It's not, something like where we're asking them to construct some innovative ideas or anything like that. It's more like, did you learn this material? So I would, in classes where multiple choice exams are being done because of that type of material, this is the appropriate kind of exam for this kind of material, but other classes, maybe not.
Yeah, I was wondering, one of the things you brought up that was interesting is one of the reasons they felt they could cheat is because they didn't know the faculty member and they had no contact. And it's interesting that this actually doesn't solve that at all, it just circumvents it. And
Right.
the issue is like, so there's just someone who's being creepily watched.
Yeah.
Like, there's this, it kind of almost seems almost more alienating.
Well, that's part of I do have contact with them in other parts of the course, and I do think that that's really important. And so, but this part of the course, and I think when students say there's no contact, I think what they mean is not so much that this professor isn't involved in the course, is that you're not seeing them face to face and interacting with them on campus and asking questions face to face. But yeah, I agree that if you were just, set them loose in a course and didn't have any input, and just, there it went, and then that's all the input you had is I'm going to watch you do exams. I don't think that would be very effective teaching.
I think this is really timely. As a program leader whose students take courses across the campus, I'm continuing to get feedback from students that they're taking exams online, and as CERT does more and more to help people to do things online, we need to offer more ways to monitor. However, I'm finding that there are more and more courses on campus where faculty members perhaps have not gone through CERT, and they're just deciding one-off to offer online exams. And it's making me really nervous, because I think, particularly what you talked about, these introductory level classes with lots of multiple choice, it's out there. Now, it's been out there from those of us who have been in education for a long time. I still remember somebody on my floor getting paid $100 or $500 to take a calculus final. So, I mean, this stuff's been going on since the beginning of education, but it's different now. And I think as a faculty, we've now got to figure out how we can make sure that if people choose to give online exams, they're doing something like this. Because potentially this is better monitoring than we can do in a classroom.
Yeah, it actually is. One more question.
I actually like this one. I ask kind of more of a negative question. But what kind of protection are we giving the students by going to a third party, or what kind of protection are we building into this? Because we're going to a third-party vendor online, and now the students are giving them personally identifiable information, their driver's license, birthday, we're actually kind of subcontracting that out, which is fine, but we have to make sure we're still protecting their data. So does this come with some type of assurance, or is this?
I'll hand that question.
So we entered into a contract with this company, and it was reviewed by the security team and all the normal things we do with the increasing number of vendors we deal with that are outside of the campus and server walls.
Thank you.